Good evening, everybody. My name is Marty Belsky, and it's my honor to be the president of the Akron-Summit Council on Holocaust and Genocide Education. We thank you all for being here today. Tonight, we're here to commemorate Yom HaShoah, or Holocaust Remembrance Day. The actual program by the Jewish community was last night. Ours is an interfaith community meeting and an award ceremony. The winners of the 36th annual Arts and Writing Contest will be talked about, and honored tonight as well. The Akron-Summit Council on Holocaust and Genocide Education believes the lesson of the Holocaust and other genocides are important because of man's inhumanity to man. It continues to threaten world society today. We pledge, and the whole purpose of this program, to never forget the millions of innocent victims who lost their lives and the thousands of others who aided them. Through education, we have fostered a continuation of understanding and knowledge about the Holocaust through the annual Writing and Arts Contest, so that our youth will not forget what happened and that it could happen again, that history should never repeat itself. We're reminded of the solemn duty we have to remember the Holocaust. The Holocaust stands as a chilling testament to the depths of human cruelty and the consequences of unchecked hatred. That is why we call the topic tonight related to hatred. We hope and pray that the theme that we've set for this program of Lessons of the Holocaust, How Hatred Turns to Violence, will not be repeated. We use a new theme so that students are challenged to examine the many ways the Holocaust impacted our world and critically evaluate how to make sure it never happens again. We must today ask ourselves, when something happens, when something scares us, when societies are at risk, the public has to understand what's going on. It has to be visible. It can't be invisible. American history indicates that it took 8 to 10 years before the American public, but more important, the American government, understood what was going on in Nazi Germany. By learning about this dark chapter in history, we hope to equip ourselves to recognize the signs of prejudice and injustice, and, more important, to get up and stand against them. The Akron-Summit Council operates with the financial and technical support of Summit County, under County Executive Eileen Shapiro, the City of Akron, under Mayor Shamus Malik, the Akron-Summit County Public Library, and you'll hear from all those in a few minutes, as well as community donors. Our primary project is to sponsor the Writing and Arts Contest. We also hold an educational program in the fall to the theme of the contest, in which we invite educators to come and listen to expert speakers talk about the concepts that we're dealing with. Historically, in lieu of monetary prizes for the competition, the student winners and their teachers were taken on a trip to Washington, D.C. This year, however, we were able to make arrangements to take a trip to the Maltz Museum and Temple Tifereth Israel in Beechwood to see their programs, their information, and their exhibit on the Holocaust. We took our first to fourth place student winners and their educators. We hope to continue that in the future and to expand it thereafter. Anybody who looks at a newspaper or watches TV has seen the increase in anti-Semitism and hate groups in our area and across the country, but we are not without hope. This year, we received a grant from the Ohio Holocaust and Genocide Memorial and Education Commission with the goal of promoting the awareness of the contest throughout Summit County. We were excited to report that we were able to successfully increase participation by 75% in those teachers, students, and others who were involved. We increased the number of participating schools by 36%, and an overall increase in the number of entries as well. In the next couple of weeks, we'll release a short promotional recording that we hope will allow us to continue to recruit new schools, new students, and new interested parties. We have to educate this community about the importance of tolerance, empathy, and standing up for what's right. It's not always easy. It's not always easy, but we have to do it if we hope to counter hate speech and discrimination wherever we can counter it. Whether it be in our workplaces, schools, communities, or online, it will take all of us to make, quote, never again a reality. Welcome, and thank you everyone who's taken the time to join us today. Many of you are here because of your children being involved in the contest, and we thank you for coming to watch them, to understand them, and to honor them. Thank you to Summit County, the City of Akron, the Akron-Summit County Public Library, and the Ohio Holocaust and Genocide Memorial and Education Commission for their support. Thanks to our board members and contest judges for donating their time on this important project. We had a number of exhibits, a number of writing examples, a number of art that a number of people took a look at, to judge, to evaluate, and move forward with. We thank you all for being here tonight to honor the memory of the victims of the Holocaust and to celebrate the amazing and thought-provoking art created by the talented students of Summit County. We are honored tonight to have, in his first appearance at this program, our new mayor, Mayor Malik. Shamus Malik became a mayor not that long ago, right? And he has already made his imprint on our city and an imprint on the citizens of our city. Let's welcome Shamus Malik as he makes some remarks.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here tonight. It's dangerous to try to correct Marty Belsky, but I'm going to just briefly. I'm making my first appearance on the stage, but I have been to this event before. And I have, because I've been very moved in the past to walk along the halls of the library and to look at the artwork and to look at how the people who came before you, the students here, were able to take a terrible, twisted situation, one of the worst situations in human history, and to find meaning and find lessons for our present day through art. And so that's what makes this so important. This is an event that's been going on in our community for decades, and I hope will go on in our community for decades to come. And so that is part of the tradition here. Dean Belsky also mentioned that this is some of the worst of what humanity is capable of. When we look at the lesson of the Holocaust, we also see some of the best of what humanity is capable of in the acts of people who saved people, who put their lives on the line to preserve life, even as it was being, even as a whole groups of people and millions of people were being exterminated. There were people who were incredibly brave, who were incredibly courageous. And every instance in humanity in which we see terrible things happen, we can also see good people trying to stop them. And I wanted to reflect a little bit on, in ninth grade in my English class, we had a teacher who had a really big impact on me, and it's National Teacher Appreciation Week, so I wanted to go back there. Mr. Saul, who many people remember from Firestone High School, he taught out of a book called Us Versus Them. And this book had a series of essays and stories, and some of them were about religious discrimination, some of them were about racial discrimination, some of them were about political discrimination. They were about hatred and bigotry in all different kinds of forms. And it's really important that we study these things because we have to take every action we can in our own lives to prevent them. That when we hear hate speech, that we speak out against it. That when we see bigotry, we speak out against it. And that is a lesson that we can take in small and big ways. So I'm honored to be here tonight. I'm looking forward to seeing some of the art and to hearing from our speaker. We're honored to have you. And thank you everyone for having us here tonight.
Thank you, Mayor. This program is co-sponsored by two organizations, the City of Akron and also Summit County. Summit County was a group involved for many, many years, and then the city also became part of the process as well. I'd like to introduce the county's executive, Eileen Shapiro.
Good evening, everybody. I have been coming here for a number of years, and I really need to say that when I see the schools, the number of schools and the number of students that have put their arms around this issue, and we know that when you start early, you start to form your opinions and your thoughts and your caring being of who you are. And I am just always thrilled to be a part of this. Marty, I want to thank you and your entire team, Mayor Malik, for the collaboration with the city of Akron. Our library is just amazing, by the way. If you don't know Pam Hickson, you should be, Stevenson. So tonight, could we stop before I do that and give everybody applause that has put all of this together? Every year, we gather to remember and honor millions upon millions who were lost to the Holocaust. Every year, our students remind us that through art and writing and history, we can inspire hearts and minds to work towards a brighter future in a world where hatred and bigotry no longer exists. And every year, our students remind us of what it means to sadly face something that we never ever want to face again. But how do we address it and how do we change it? And sadly, across our world right now, there are people that are living in fear, in anger. People have relatives all over the globe that are struggling, and people are scared. And we are shocked that our global universe is in the state that it is in. The stories and the hate and of hate and violence continue to appear on the news, and they give us a heavy feeling. Our hearts are heavy, and we don't know what to do. But we as individuals can make a choice on how we handle this. Hate and bigotry grow because nobody stands up to it. And sometimes it is very insidious. You don't even know that it's happening. But hatred, no matter who it's towards, what race, what religion, what color, what gender, bigotry is bigotry and hate is hate. And bigotry begets bigotry and hatred begets hatred. So you mentioned, Dean, that a few of our students were up at the Maltz Museum. And they went up to visit somebody who's no longer alive, correct? I think this is a wonderful story. And his name was Stanley Burnett, and he passed away a few years ago. And his life story is now memorialized up at the Maltz Museum in Beechwood, as the dean said. And if, by the way, if you ever have a chance to go up there or to see the Holocaust Museum in DC or in Yad Vashem, please go. It is well worth your time, and it will make an emblazed memory in your future as you approach and think about these things. Well, with the help of modern technology now, his voice is alive, and he's there to tell the story. And later in life, I believe he's been here a couple of times, has he not, Marty? He spent time coming and talking to people like us and explaining what his life was like and what happened and how he struggled through it. But despite being taken from his home and in prison, despite being facing that intense hatred that was there and violence, and being starved to the point where he couldn't stand up, he would say, "I don't hate anybody. I don't hate anybody." Imagine that, to have lived a life like that, to not carry that hate in their heart and turn it towards other people. Really a remarkable man. So as I look at the kids that are in this room and your willingness to take on a subject like this, you know, every generation creates the next generation, and you all are the future, and you all will create tomorrow. And we hope that the lessons of the past will help you understand the future and will help you create a world where hate and bigotry do not exist. Your work will stand as a legacy to what you have done, and we are so proud of each and every one of you. And congratulations for taking that step forward. You've done something that others have, and I really need to give a shout out to your teachers and the folks at your schools that have been a part of this. So thank you, everybody, and thank you for doing this.
You didn't steal my notes, did you?
No, yours are over here. Mine are over here.
And I want to thank, if I can, the county executive, Eileen Shapiro, for her remarks and her comments, and she has been here on a regular basis forever. And I want to introduce again somebody you've already been introduced to indirectly, is the executive director of the library, Pamela Hickson Stevenson. I want to say this really quickly. This space and this opportunity for us to come to this space in a sort of an area where people can come to has really been very much involved with the success of this program. So I'm going to ask her to make some remarks.
Thank you, Dean Belsky. Welcome to the Akron-Summit County Public Library, which this year is celebrating 150 years of service to the community. It is an honor for the Akron-Summit County Public Library to host the 36th annual Akron-Summit Holocaust Commemoration and Awards ceremony this evening. Thank you all very much for being here. Moreover, it has been our honor to host this annual event for many years. The contest entries truly are poignant and inspiring, and I look forward to touring the exhibit every year when it's put up here at Maine. America's public libraries play a unique role in society by providing free access to the history of humanity, and that's all the good parts and all the terrible parts. We do this by providing materials in our local collections, access to credible databases, and connection to other libraries that can provide materials we do not hold locally. Additionally, we work diligently to safeguard your right of access to information. This right is a specific manifestation of the freedom of expression protected by the First Amendment of the Constitution of the United States of America. As stated by the American Library Association, the right to speak and the right to publish under the First Amendment has been interpreted widely to protect individuals and society from government attempts to suppress ideas and information, and to forbid government censorship of books, magazines, and newspapers, as well as art, film, music, and materials on the internet. The Supreme Court and other courts have held conclusively that there is a First Amendment right to receive information as a corollary to the right to speak. I am grateful to work for an institution that defends these rights, and proud the library supports the work of the Akron-Summit Council on Holocaust and Genocide Education by ensuring information about the Holocaust and genocide around the world can be found at the library. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Pam. And I'd like to call, if I can, Rabbi Lipton, who is going to do our opening and invocation.
I must tell you what an honor it is to be here as we mark Yom HaShoah, Holocaust Remembrance Day. I have had the opportunity to celebrate and to mark Yom HaShoah in places all over the world, in North America, in Canada, in Europe, and in Israel. And I can tell you that none of them is as important as the work that we do here in Akron. The seeds that we plant, not just in the Jewish community, whose seeds I'm very familiar with, but within the community at large, within our schools, within our children, within their creativity. There's nothing that I've ever experienced that is as potent as the work that we do right here in Akron, Ohio. Today, as we commemorate Yom HaShoah, Holocaust Remembrance Day, as a community, we remember the millions of victims of the greatest crime of man against man, the young, the old, the innocent, the 1.5 million children starved, shot, given lethal injections, gassed, burned, and turned to ash because they were deemed guilty of the crime of being different. We remember what happens when hate takes hold of the human heart and turns it to stone. What happens when victims cry for help and there is no one listening? What happens when humanity fails to recognize that those who are not in our image are nonetheless in God's image? We remember and we pay tribute to the survivors, those survivors who bore witness to what happened, and to the victims, so that robbed of their lives, they would not be robbed also in their deaths. We remember and we give thanks for the righteous of all the nations who saved lives, often at risk of their own, teaching us how in the darkest night we can light a candle of hope. Today, as we commemorate Yom HaShoah, Holocaust Remembrance Day, we call on you, Almighty God, to help us hear your voice that says in every generation, do not murder. Do not stand idly by the blood of your neighbor. Do not oppress the stranger. We know that while we do not have the ability to change the past, we can, together, change the future. We know that while we cannot bring the dead back to life, we can ensure that their memories live on and that their deaths were not in vain. And so as we commemorate Yom HaShoah, we commit ourselves to one simple act. In Hebrew, the word is zachor. It means to remember. May the souls of the innocent victims be bound in the bond of life eternal. And together, as a community, we say, Amen.
I had the pleasure last night of meeting our speaker. This is her book, On Sunday, Sunny Days We Sang. Jeanette Grunhaus de Gelman is someone who can give a story and talk about the experiences she had, not just in this country, but in another country where she came from and when she was involved in developing her career. In the brochure that you received, you have a very detailed description of her background and a long discussion about it. She has an amazing career. She's Venezuelan, and she's an academic both in Venezuela and here. She's a scholar. If you read her book, you'll see what I mean. and she's also someone who can express attitudes and perspectives at a level that really hits your heart. It's my honor to introduce our speaker, Jeanette Grunhaus de Gilman, for our featured campaign.
Good evening. Can you hear me? Well, okay. Good evening to all of you. Before I start anything, I would like to say that those are my parents in the cover of the book, and they would be extremely pleased to see an audience of so many youngsters here. So thank you for having me here and for being here. And with this, I'll start. Good evening to everyone. My name is Jeanette Grunhaus de Gilman, as Marty said, and I am extremely honored to be here with you. I thank the Akron-Summit Council on Holocaust and Genocide Education and its board members for this invitation. The title of this year's summit, Lessons of the Holocaust, How Hatred Turns to Violence, immediately caught my attention, because this subject is very close to me and to my family's history, because I am the daughter of Polish survivors from Rodawa, a small town in eastern Poland. And my parents, Hill Grunhaus and Alexandra Lederman, were the only survivors in their immediate family of 25. Examining their journey, you will hear how hatred quickly degenerated into violence and took its toll not only on their family, my family, but on all of the 6 million Jews that were murdered in the Holocaust. Since my early childhood, I felt strongly the loneliness that other friends did not have. It came from not having cousins, not having aunts and uncles, and especially not having grandparents, until I understood why. All my family had been killed in the Holocaust. So it is evident that these feelings about the Holocaust were a part of me since I was a little girl. But it was only very late in my life that I came to writing my parents' story. And there were some circumstances that delayed and triggered this decision. In the year 2000, my mother expressed her wish to go to Poland in a trip organized by survivors from her town. My brother, my sister, and I decided to go with her. My sister and I arrived in Warsaw before the group. That night in Poland, we walked around Warsaw, and to our astonishment, there were almost no signs that would remind the visitor of the 3,300,000 Jews that existed in Poland in 1939 when the war broke out. It was as if they had been completely erased from Polish history. It was then that I decided that that could not be. My ancestors could not have been erased from Polish history. And I decided that I had to research my family's history, and I had to write my parents' story so our children and our grandchildren could know where they came from and honor forever their memory. So in 2018 came out the Spanish version of my book with the title, En los días claros cantábamos. Spanish is my native language. And then in 2022 came the translation that you see there, On Sunny Days We Sang, a Holocaust story of survival and resilience. My family came, as I said, from Rodawa, a small town with a population of 9,500 inhabitants, 60% of which were Jewish, that is 5,600. Of those 5,600, only 50 survive, and among them, my parents. My father, Hill, and I want to tell you a little bit about my parents and their story. My father, Hill, was born in 1904 to a well-off Orthodox family of 6. My grandfather, Jacob, had been his ancestors in the lumber business. So my father first worked with his father, and then he went independent in 1928 and moved to northern Poland to Danzig. He was in Danzig when the war broke out. My mother, Hannah Schendel, later known as Alexandra, which was a false name she adopted in 1942, but she decided to keep for the rest of her life, was born in 1924 to a family of 7 siblings. Her father owned a store in the center of town, selling all sorts of goods. But his life and that of his family, because they were Hasidic, evolved around religion. My parents were second cousins, but they didn't relate because they were from different generations, 20 years difference. So at the beginning of the war, each one of them went their own path until in the middle of 1943, when their destinies came together. The war broke out September 1st, 1939, with the invasion of Poland. The Germans arrived in Vlodava on September 16th, and for the Jews of Vlodava, their world turned upside down. As in all the territories under German control, restrictions and laws were quickly established after they were occupied. Violence and terror ruled everyday life. The objective was to limit for the Jews all their civil and economic rights, lead them to sickness and poverty, and eventually eliminate them all. The Germans had planned with detail every step of the process. Vlodava was a town that was on the border, on a river, the River Bug, and on the border with the Soviet Union. But it was a town that had a very swampy area. So when the war started, the Germans brought in a company called Rode that came to dry up the waters and prepare the land for planting. So another company came for planting, and another third company came in. Why am I talking about this? This meant that these 3 companies gave work to 2,000 Jews, more or less. And why was this important? This was important because if you were a Jew during the war in a small town in Poland, and you had a work permit, which is what these companies gave, for a little while, you felt safe and you were not detained and killed in the middle of the street. So Vlodava had these 3 companies, and they were important for my parents. One of them, the manager, was called Bernard Falkenberg, who was a German, but who, since he arrived in Vlodava, he understood what the other Germans were doing. He came from a communist background. He was not a Nazi. And he helped my father and many Jews to safety. So he's a very important man. He was later on named Righteous Among the Nations by Yad Vashem, the Israeli institution. So the first years of the war, my mother, who was 15 when the war broke out, was under the guidance of her father and her oldest sister, Esther. And she taught, for 2 years, she taught little children to read and write. But soon she understood the importance of having a work permit. So she was hired by one of these companies, and she got her work permit and worked with that. My father was, the first 2 years of the war, he was not in Vlodava. He was in Warsaw. But in 1942, he came back to Vlodava, and he became friendly with Falkenberg right away. And Falkenberg gave him 2 important things. First, a false work permit called Kennenkarte, and then an ID under the name of Henrik Gaida, which would be very useful for my father. So 1942 begins, and very important events start coming. In 1942, in May, one of the 6 extermination camps that the Nazis built to kill all the Jews was opened in our town, 7 miles away from Vlodava. Why was it so important? Well, first of all, because the Nazis were implementing their systematic killing of the Jews. But for Vlodava, it was even more so important because now everybody was in danger. So the Nazis collected all the Jews through roundups. And in Vlodava, there were 5 roundups that began May 24th, 1942 to May 1st, 1943. By the end, in 1943, all the Jews of Vlodava, except those, like my parents, that had escaped, had been killed. What happened with their families? My mother's family was okay working until 1942. And then the roundup started. In the second roundup, one of her sisters and her husband and the kids were caught and killed. The rest lived until the last roundup. My father's family was divided. Part of it was in Vlodava, part in another town called Colville. His mother was taken in the third roundup. But then the last roundup arrives and everybody's going to be caught. So everybody had to hide. My father hid with his brother and his brother's family, but one of the little boys coughed and the Germans found him. But my father managed to escape. He hid in Falkenberg's house. Remember that I told him he would be important for him? He hid in Falkenberg's house until the partisans arrived, and then he escaped from Vlodava with the partisans. But my father was 39 in 43. So he could not keep up pace with the partisans. So he said to the partisans, I have gold coins. I'll give you coins, I'll give you money so you can buy arms, but find me a hiding place, which they did. They found him a hiding place in a farmer's house about 15 miles from Vlodava. And so he was the only, by that time, my father was the only one left that he knew, because once the Nazis caught somebody, you didn't know if they were shot instantly or they were taken to Sobibor. There are no records of the people from Vlodava going to Sobibor, so we couldn't check any of that. My mother, on the other hand, stayed with her sister Esther, and they hid for 3 days in the cellar during the last roundup in May 1st, 1943. And after that, they ran into the forest to a little place called Adampol, where they were staying. What happened then, my mother and Esther remained in the forest in Adampol until they met the partisans from Vlodava that knew them well. And the partisans told them, you are cousins of Gil. He's hiding. Why don't you go and hide with him? Messages started coming and going, and the result was that the farmer said, no, I cannot hide more than one person. So my father said to Esther and my mother, I'm leaving, I'm giving you the place, I'm going to Warsaw. One of you come and stay here. Esther, who was older than my mother and who always took care of her, told her, you go, I'll take care. So my mother went off to the farmer's house, and Esther stayed in Adampol, but she did not take care of herself. She was killed 2 months later in the last roundup that the Germans did in Adampol. So it was here in July 1943 that my father Gil and my mother Alexandra's life together began. My father, who was cosmopolitan and smart, took over making all the decisions and leading the way with determination. My mother followed. My father was in Warsaw, and my mother stayed in Vlodava, hiding in the farmer's house. But in November, he sent for her, and he placed her in the house of a lady that didn't have any family in Warsaw, and they stayed in Warsaw until October 1944, when there was a Polish uprising, and as a consequence of the uprising, the Germans killed 200,000 Poles and evacuated the city. So everybody went out, and some of the people were given the chance to go to Germany and work. And my father, who was very smart, said to my mother, if we stay in Poland, Poles recognize Jews. They're going to catch us. Let's go to Germany. They won't recognize us there. And they did. They went to work to Upper Silesia, and in fact, it was lucky. It was called slave labor, but for them it was not very slave-like, because my father was working in a textile company and my mother was working in a farm. And they were free to stay in the same town, but in the town, they could go anywhere. My mother, who was passing as a Pole, learned to pray. She went with the other Poles, she went to the church, and she watched what others did, and she passed as a Pole without any problem. And this continued until liberation, which was in March 31st, 1945, when the Russians came and liberated them. Then they decided to go back to Poland and to Lodava to see if anybody had survived. On the way in Lodz, they got married, March 31st, 1945, and they initiated a new life together. The return to Lodava and the realization that no one from either family had survived was a very difficult moment in their lives, you can imagine. But my father decided we have to leave Poland, and a friend offered them visas to an unknown place to them, Venezuela. They accepted and began preparations to leave. I was born in January in Poland. We crossed over to Germany, then to France, Paris, and by November, we were in Venezuela. My father was offered a job as a manager of a sawmill in Maracaibo, the second city in Venezuela. So we moved there in March of 1947, and that's where we lived for many, many years. Maracaibo was then a small city of 200 inhabitants. The first few years in Venezuela were, I'm sure, challenging, even though my parents did not mention it. A new language, Spanish, a new culture, a whole new reality, and the climate. Maracaibo had an average climate of 85, 90 degrees all year round, and my parents came from Poland, so you can imagine. Unfortunately, in the 50s, air condition came, and that saved the tragedy my mother was passing with this heat. Since their arrival in Venezuela, my parents had mainly interacted with Jews. And once in Maracaibo, the small Jewish community that was already established there helped them adapt rather well to their new life. Soon they found themselves participating in all the activities and made a group of friends that they kept for all their life. Education was an essential value in our household, something our parents were not able to have and wanted us to have. Honesty and generosity were also a part of our rearing, but they had not forgotten their strong upbringing in Judaism, and they wanted the same for us. They taught us to be proud of being Jewish, to lead our lives according to the Jewish values and traditions, but at the same time, accepting others that had other beliefs. There was no room for hate, no room for violence. They had experienced in their own flesh the result of hatred, and they did not want us to be victims like they had been, nor make others victims either. My parents' story illustrates the consequences of the actions that result from the hate of others, different others, and the extreme forms of intolerance that man can attain. This seems to have happened a long time ago, and yet today that we're celebrating Yom HaShoah, the Holocaust Remembrance Day, hatred and violence have reappeared stronger than ever, as all the people that preceded me have discussed. A worldwide rise in anti-Semitism acts and statements has been reported. You all must have witnessed them over the media. We hear and we see hate of all kinds at extreme levels, even here, for me, even surprisingly, even here in the United States, and it's very scary. The Anti-Defamation League reports over 400% increase in anti-Semitism just in the last few months. And these are not the latest numbers. So we ask ourselves, what can be done? An extremely difficult question for all of us, because we all have to do it. But we have to hope that there can be an answer. With so many young people in the auditorium, there's something that can be done to revert this tendency. We have to be more vigilant and hope, really hope, that one of the answers lies in education. The only way to stop this horrific wave of anti-Semitism is, I believe, partially through education, especially education of the youngsters. If we manage to make them understand this basic principle, maybe we will have won the beginning of the battle, just the beginning. But now I would like to end looking back to my parents' story, honoring their courage, admiring the resilience that was required of them to be able to live day after day, losing a family member after another, a friend after another, and try to stay alive. Thank you for sharing with me my parents' journey, and good night.
Well done. Well done. Well done. I'd like to ask Rini and Esther and Ethan to come up, please. We're going to start the award ceremony and candlelighting program. First, Esther Hester and Rini Pinsky are going to start and talk about the candlelighting program. And then after that, we'll have the award ceremony.
Thank you, Jeanette, for your moving story. The ritual of lighting candles is part of many Jewish customs and traditions. Memorial candles, called yurtzeit candles, are lit in memory of loved one on the anniversary of their passing. And yurtzeit candles are also lit on Holocaust Remembrance Day in memory of the 6 million Jews who were murdered in the Holocaust. I would like to call upon our first place winners to light the 7 candles that we have here before you. So if they could come up on the steps now. The first place winners, would you please come up? Each of the first 6 candles represent 1 million Jewish lives lost. The 7th candle represents all other lives lost in the Holocaust and in conflicts around the world. As we light these candles, we welcome new light and hope into our hearts and our community. Please rise as our student winners pass this light on behalf of all of us. We will observe a moment of silence and reflection as all 7 candles are lit. Thank you very much. Thank you. You may be seated.
shake hands and. No, you can. Andrew will help you out. All right, good evening. So I have the privilege of announcing our award winners today, but before I do that, I want to briefly ask that we give our teachers one more round of applause for all they do. And now for the awards. So I would ask that you please save your applause till the very end of each division, if you could. And for some of them, we have quite a few to get through. So first, our Writing Division I nonfiction. So we recently, about 2 years ago, separated our nonfiction and fiction to allow students a greater range of expression and competition. There were less submissions this year, so that's why you may see a couple less award winners, but we're very proud of those that have won, and congratulations to them. So with an honorable mention for Writing Division I nonfiction is Cristiano Negrillo. Oh, it's your very own, the getcha. That's okay. In second place is J. Lee Owens of Copley Fairlawn Middle School. And in first place is Delaney Birkbeck of Copley Fairlawn Middle School. Congratulations. For Writing Division II, we have 2 honorable mentions this year. Our first honorable mention is Bella Dean of Coventry High School and Braylon Wenzel of Coventry High School. Congratulations. Now for the Writing Division I fiction. First, our honorable mentions. Samantha Brinkman, Copley Fairlawn Middle School. Dylan Hargrove, Copley Fairlawn Middle School. Quinn Myers, the Lippman School. SD Tech, Copley Fairlawn Middle School. Levi Rao, Copley Fairlawn Middle School. Charles Raymond, the Lippman School. Mallory Cisco, Copley Fairlawn Middle School. Benjamin Sloan, Copley Fairlawn Middle School. Mia Teushan, Hudson Middle School. Lila Walker, Copley Fairlawn Middle School. And in fourth place for Writing Division I fiction is Charlotte Bingham, Hudson Middle School. And in third place is Daniela Sophia Salandanen, Copley Fairlawn Middle School. In second place is Nolan Obervac, Copley Fairlawn Middle School. And in first place is Grace Callender, Copley Fairlawn Middle School. Congratulations. And for our Writing Division II fiction, our winners this year in fourth place is Emma Roque, Our Lady of the Elms. In third place, Rashika Tamang, Our Lady of the Elms. In second place, Jackson Anderson, Coventry High School. And in first place is Rebecca Ashby, Copley High School. Congratulations. And now on to our art, Visual Art Division I, starting with our honorable mentions. First, we have Lachlan Archer, Hudson Middle School. Cameron Bazran, Hudson Middle School. Cordelia Boone, Miller South VPA. Elizabeth Budikoff, Miller South VPA. Maggie Carr, Hudson Middle School. Grace Sibarek, Hudson Middle School. Alicia Jones, St. Mary's School. Cam Kucharski, Miller South VPA. Tori Lee, Hudson Middle School. Max Monroe, Hudson Middle School. Liam Pat, Hudson Middle School. Liana Powers, the Littman School. Emmeline Rambler, Miller South VPA. Rika Rauschenberger, the Littman School. Charles Raymond, the Littman School. Hannah Riley, Hudson Middle School. Julian Schaff, Hudson Middle School. Angelica Sestito, Miller South VPA. Samuel Stimson, accepted by his brother Hudson Stimson, the Littman School. Gwen Stock, Hudson Middle School. Mia Teushan, Hudson Middle School. Eden Tipka, Hudson Middle School. Rachel Tudor, the Littman School. Kat Williams, Miller South VPA. Robin Yan, Hudson Middle School. And in fourth place for Visual Art Division 1 is May Kasanovich of Hudson Middle School. And in third place is Addison Ruby of Miller South VPA. And in second place is Roxanne Trail of Miller South VPA. And in first place is Emily Gertz of Hudson Middle School. Congratulations. And our last but certainly not least category of this evening, Visual Art Division 2. First, our honorable mentions. Kenzie Campana, St. Vincent St. Mary High School. Lily Custer, Mogador High School. Mackenzie Daly, St. Vincent St. Mary. Jenna Ellis, Springfield High School and Junior High. Natalie Formica, Field High School. Gracie Funk, Mogador High School. Travis Hummel, Mogador High School. Caitlin Kester, Mogador High School. Jaden Meredith, St. Vincent St. Mary. Cecilia Nelson, Mogador High School. Izzy Ralph, Archbishop Hoban High School. Ethan Reinhardt, Field High School. Allison Rowley, Springfield High School and Junior High. Mackenzie Schellenbarger, Mogador High School. Jordan Smith, Mogador High School. Nick Stevenson, Mogador High School. Heidi Varikin, St. Vincent St. Mary. Oliver Villalpando, Our Lady of the Elms. Naya Williams, St. Vincent St. Mary High School. Ryan Wodas, Mogadore High School. And in fourth place for Visual Art Division II is Brianna McQuain of Mogadore High School. And in third place is Grace Palace of St. Vincent St. Mary High School. In second place, Alejandro Alvarez of Springfield High School. And in first place is Leah Odom of Springfield High School. Congratulations to all the winners and all our participants tonight.
Dorothy O. Jackson was instrumental in starting the City of Akron Holocaust Commemoration in 1987. The City of Akron Holocaust Art and Writing Contest was added in 1989, and both continue to this day. Dorothy O. Jackson was the Deputy Mayor for Intergovernmental Affairs, key staff for the Mayor's Office, together with committee members, led the annual contest for middle school and high school students from Akron and Summit County from 1989 to 2003. Her leadership in encouraging students and schools to study about the Holocaust and submit entries was essential to the ongoing contest and to make it successful. She encouraged recognition of students by listing all students, teachers, and school names in the winning entries book, published each year until her retirement in 2003. This has been continued through today. The committee inaugurated the Dorothy O. Jackson Best of the Best Award in 2004 in her honor. Each year since 2004, a single piece is chosen as the best of the best from all first place winning pieces, and each category, and then voted on by the commemoration committee. This year, the choice of choosing the best of the best was extremely difficult, as the quality of the pieces was extremely high. The thought, effort, and research that went into them made all the pieces meaningful, evoking thought to all viewers and readers. If you have not looked at the display downstairs, they close in about 45 minutes. Try to do it. If not, it's going to be there for 2 more days to see all the display, all the art, and some of the written material as well. We did have to choose one piece, however, to honor the best of the best, to make sure that we honor the ever-wonderful Dorothy O. Jackson. This year, the award goes to Leah Odom from Springfield High School for her artwork, Tears of the Targeted. Congratulations, Leah, for your exemplary work. Would you please come up? You here? You want a picture? Yeah. Who's coming? Who's coming? Here you go. Let's give one more round of applause for all those people who participated in the program. And I want to especially thank the teachers, without whom this program would not exist. In a few minutes, I'm going to thank the people who have been involved in this program. But standing over there, hiding against the wall, is Laura Ralph. She is the director of this program, and everything that's successful today is because of her, not because of me or anybody else. So let's thank Laura right now. As is our tradition, we now announce the theme for next year's contest. You will also find it listed in the program. Anybody who knows what's going on in our society, with the number of individuals who all of a sudden are saying the Holocaust didn't exist, or if it did exist, it was not really serious, means that we really have to portray how ridiculous that is. Our theme for next year is Lessons of the Holocaust, Countering Discrimination, Apathy, and Denial. In the words of Elie Wiesel, himself a survivor of the Holocaust, to forget the dead would be akin to killing them all over again. Let us honor the memory of the millions who perished in the Holocaust by pledging to never forget, to never remain silent in the face of injustice, and to work tirelessly towards a world where never again is not just a dream. I want to thank, if I can, the members of the council. Would you please, members of the Council of Summit Holocaust and Genocide, please stand so we can recognize them, all those people, and can thank them. Also, you'll see that we have a number of individuals who are donors besides the city and the county. Those donors, the participants, the parents who are here to honor their children and to honor the program. The committee members, Rabbi Lipton, in a minute you're going to hear from Pastor Gene Hansen from Faith Lutheran. This program is important, not just because we want to remember what happened in the Holocaust, but we also remember that we have to understand the past to prevent anything like that happening again in the future. It is a scary time right now. Anybody who picks up a newspaper, anybody who reads a newspaper, anybody who takes a look at it, understands what is going on and how things are happening and what they're going to be doing for that scenario. I'll have a few other, more comments in a minute, but let me call Pastor Gene Hansen for a benediction.
We all are privileged to be called upon to be agents of change in our world. But that requires courage and insight and education and the kind of creativity that sparks all of those things that grow out of a program like this one. And so I give thanks for especially all of the youth who have participated in this event and all those who have made it happen. I invite you to stand for the benediction. May the words of the psalmist, that God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble, bring assurance to your hearts during times of challenge, and empower you to be an agent of change. May you always recall that the Lord is good, abounding in steadfast love and faithfulness that endures forever, from generation to generation. And as the blessing of the Lord given to Moses and Aaron and passed on to us proclaims, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord's face be made to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord's countenance be lifted upon you and give you peace, both now and forever. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Hansen. I want to specifically thank our speaker. I showed you the book before, and I'll show it to you again. There'll be some copies outside if you want to get one, and if you want to talk to our speaker. Jeanette Grunham-Gelman told us a story. It's one of many. Unfortunately, it's one of many, both positive and negative. The number of people who died in the Holocaust, 6 million. Jews who would have had a life could have been doctors, could have been lawyers, could have been president, could have been prime minister, could have been anything. We'll never know. Not just the ones who were in middle age and not the ones who were old, but the ones that never really had a chance to enjoy their youth and move on. We cannot forget. We must not forget. We must make sure that those who deny it occurred cannot get away with it. It is our job, Jew, Christian, Muslim, whatever, to make sure that the horror of that event is maintained as a horror, and not something that just sort of happened in that scenario, in that situation. I hope some of you will participate again next year in this program by doing art, by doing writing, and coming to the event, where the theme again is going to be very important: to oppose the deniers, to understand the lesson of the Holocaust from that situation. Okay? If you have any understanding of what was said tonight and the work that your children or you or relatives or friends were involved with, you can see that but for programs like this, not just here, but all over the country, we must maintain the history. You heard a little bit of discussion about the Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C. I hope you have a chance to see it. If you haven't seen it, it's an amazing event to see. We also have the program at Tifereth Israel and also at Maltz in Cleveland, which is not that far away. We hope for some of you it's the beginning of an understanding of the past to make sure it does not happen in the future. I thank you all for coming. There'll be a table set up at the lobby if teachers want to get their books signed by Jeanette. So thank you all for coming. Shalom. Amen. Gene, thank you. Reverend, thank you. This is, we really are scared. We have, I don't know if you know, there's a group of people in the diner, organized group of people who are saying that it's a war. Including a minister, I don't know what the denomination is, a minister who says it's unfair to blame the Germans for the Holocaust. What can you do? Scary.